kind of issues. She has slightly put the cat among the pigeons, though, for many people, talking yesterday about how some trans women could be held in female jails. That seems to be a little at odds with the kind of spirit of reform and possibly things that even the leadership of reform have said previously on this. What's your take on trans women, i.e. men, being held in female jails?
Right, let me try and sort this one out for you, Ian. First of all, reform policy is that we will not routinely house trans women prisoners in women's jails. However, they'll have to stay in men's jails if that was the sex they were born into. However, we would acknowledge, and I think this is what Vanessa had in mind, we would acknowledge that there is a very small portion of trans people who have gone through the whole works. They've had the surgery, they've had the drugs, they have developed ostensibly, at any rate, you can't do much about inside, but ostensibly outside a woman's body. They look like women. They may have lived as women for, 9, 10, 11 years. And we would acknowledge that if you put somebody like that, who looks like a woman, into a male prison, that person would be in extreme danger of serious sexual assault, there's no doubt about it. And so we would say that in those cases, we would examine the possibility of housing them in a women's prison. There aren't enough of them to make it worth creating a special unit. So it would have to be one or the other, either male or female. I think that's what Vanessa was thinking, and most people would say that's perfectly reasonable.
But it wasn't really challenged, was it, by Nigel at the time during that press conference? There wasn't any sort of broader clarification. You've just given a very good clarification, which will satisfy some. Others might still question it. But yesterday, that was a fairly clunky moment, didn't you sense, between leadership and spokesperson?
Well, I think it's one of those things that sometimes happen at press conferences where you've got open questions. You get one that you weren't entirely expecting, and you need a bit of time to think, what is happening here. And I mean, that is what my immediate reaction was. Well, yes, there are one or two cases, they're vanishingly small, but there are one or two cases where you've got, if you think, and of the ordinary population, not the criminal population, but the ordinary population, you think of people like, going back in time, Jan Morris, in more recent years, India Willoughby. Now, you imagine putting them down in a male prison, and you wouldn't, because they're law-abiding individuals. But just imagine what would happen if you put somebody like that into a male prison.
Well, that's a good point. I think, genuinely,